Hi, you guys. I hope I look okay for you guys. Look, I curled my hair today and hold on. Look at I even put on a little bit of makeup, just a little. I hope you all are doing well. I'm sorry I've been a little silent. I've been reading your messages and I've been checking into the classroom. I do still have to put a question in for today, which I think will be on our reading from Miss Jane. Um, but I hope you all are doing well. So let's get to our next chapter. We're on page 126, The Chariot of Hell. All right, let me see if I can get a little closer to you. There. Okay. I waited till we had put Ned in the ground. Then I went out looking for Albert Clouveau, but no matter when I came up to his house, Adeline, the oldest girl, said he had just left. "What you want?" she said. "I want to talk to him," I said. "Daddy just left," she said. I would turn Pigeon around and go on back home, but that evening or the next day, I would go back to his house again. Every time I thought about Ned, I would head back to that house. Adeline would be standing on the gallery waiting for me. "I want to speak to you, Daddy." "Daddy just left." "Just left again, huh?" "Yes, Jane." One day I made pretend I was going back home. I went a little piece and came right back. I saw him sitting on that mule back there in the yard. He was just getting ready to go down when he looked up and saw me. He swung that mule around and shot out across the yard, headed for the swamps. Another time, when I went there, he didn't have time to get on the mule, headed for the swamps, and left the mule. "Where your daddy?" I asked Adeline. "Gone." "Where?" "Bayonne." "What George doing back there in the yard?" I said. "You know Albert Clouveau ain't never went to the toilet if he wasn't on George's back." "He walked this time," Adeline said. "I'll catch him," I said, and laughed. But I knowed then I would never catch Albert Clouveau at that house. Him or one of them children would see me long before I ever got there. I would have to catch him somewhere else. Not to kill Albert Clouveau. That wasn't it. What would I look like killing Albert Clouveau? Let God kill him. Let the devil take him. I just wanted to speak to him. But he did everything to stay out of my way. He kept one of them children looking out for me at his house. If I was fishing or getting water out the river, he wouldn't even pass on the main road. He would go use the back road. If he knowed it was the time of day I liked to sit on my gallery, he would go down the river bank and past my house. Sometimes I would see him laying down far as I could on that mule to keep me from seeing him. I knowed if I had run out of the yard or if I jumped on Pigeon, he would have been too far for me to catch him. So I just waited. I bid my time. One day, the devil fooled Albert Clouveau. Guy Collier was fishing in front of my house. Me and Aunt Guy Collier was about the same size and color, and he thought it was me down there. So he turned around and headed for the back road. I was back there on Pigeon on my way to see Dun White at Gros Tête. The crop was high, and we didn't see each other till we made the bend, and Pigeon almost butted George in the head. Now Albert Clouveau wanted to turn and run, but I had already seen him, and he had no place to go. So he turned his head. I let him turn his head good, but I told him what I'd been waiting to tell him for a long time. "Mr. Albert Clouveau, when the chariot of hell come rattling for you, the people will hear you screaming all over this parish. Now, you just ride on." The people wanted to say I went to a hoodoo for Albert Clouveau, but I didn't go to no hoodoo, because I don't believe in no hoodoo. I went to just one hoodoo in my life. That was for Joe Pittman and that horse. But even then, I didn't believe in her the way you're supposed to. I went to her because nobody else would listen to me. But after I had gone, I still didn't take her advice. Anyhow, the word got back to Albert Clouveau that I had gone to a hoodoo And he, so simple-minded, he started to believe it. A year or so later, he came down sick and thought he was going to die. And now he jumped in bed with his two daughters, Adeline and Christine. Not the way you're thinking, okay? So we're going to keep reading, but he's actually sleeping in between his two daughters, and she's going to tell us why. His wife had been dead, and him and his sons had done so much dirt together, he was scared to sleep in the same room with them. Adeline and Christine begged and begged Albert Clairvaux to get out of their bed. It wasn't nice. What would people think? Albert Clairvaux said he didn't care what people thought. He heard the chariot of hell in that other room with his sons. Adeline told him there was no such thing. Albert Clairvaux said he'd know better. He'd heard it. He dared them to get out of the bed and sleep on the floor. They had to sleep on both sides of him to protect him from the chariot of hell. So, Albert believes that if he has his daughters on both sides of him and his daughters are good, then there's no way the devil will be able to get him, right? So the chariot of hell is the devil coming to get him. So he's thinking, I don't want to be in the bed with my sons or in the bedroom with my sons because they're as evil as I am. And so if the devil's going to come get me, he is going to be able to get me because my sons are evil. So I will go in the room where my two virtuous daughters are. They're good girls. They're godly girls. There's no way the devil can get between them, and I'll be protected. So that's what he's thinking. By and by, he started hearing the chariot of hell, even in his room with the girls. But he heard it in just one ear, the ear that was pointed toward Adeline. So he reckoned Adeline hated him. She had always been ashamed of him, so now she must hate him too. Besides that, he was sure she was messing around with men when he wasn't at the house. And he didn't want his daughters to be rotten like him and his sons. He wanted them to stay pure. That's why he always made them go to church, to keep them pure. But either Adeline wasn't pure or she hated him. Clairvaux: Adeline, you hate your pap? Adeline: no, Papa. Clairvaux: Adeline, you pure? Adeline: I swear by the Holy Mother I'm pure, Papa. Albert Clairvaux would turn over, but still the chariot of hell would come from Adeline's side of the bed. Clairvaux: Adeline, if you so pure, Adeline, if you don't have no hate in your heart for your papa, who never do you no wrong, Adeline, how come the chariot of hell, he just run over there, huh? Adeline told him, Papa, there ain't no chariot of hell. Clairvaux told her she was a damn liar, and he jumped out of the bed and started beating her with a strap. The boys had to come round there and pull him off her. After a while, he would get back in the bed. But the chariot would start all over. Poor Adeline would lay on her side of the bed crying in the sheet. This went on for days, for weeks. Then one day, Adeline came to the house. She would do anything if I took the hoodoo off her papa. I told Adeline I had no more hoodoo on Albert Clairvaux than I had on my own self. It was just his sinning ways catching up with him. Adeline pulled her dress down over her shoulders and showed me the welt marks where Albert Clairvaux had beat her. She told me to please help a little Cajun gal who had done nobody no harm in all her life. I told her I couldn't do a thing because I had no hoodoo on Clairvaux. I asked her if she wanted some coffee and tea cakes. She said yes. She was a big, fine gal, big, pretty legs. She was already old enough to be married, but they kept her there to cook for them. I gave her coffee and tea cakes when you sat right there in the gallery. It's not me, she said. I'm not bad. I'm a true virgin. I believe in my Catholic faith. But Christine, she's no virgin. No virgin her. She went bad at 11. But she is the baby, and they like her. None care for poor Adeline, and the chariot, even the chariot, can find no place to run but on my side. Every night he run, every night. Papa jump out of the bed and whip me. I want to leave, but where can poor Adeline go? I change sides with Christine. I say, Christine, dearie, sleep here. Let your poor sister Adeline get one night peace. Christine's got a pure soul. Poor dear. She says, all right, my dear, we change sides. But do that stop the chariot? Christine went bad at 11, but that chariot runs right where I sleep. That hoodoo is against me more than it's against my papa. You must take it off, Jane. I ain't got no hoodoo on your papa, I told her. I told him when the chariot come for him, we will hear him all over the parish. That we will, that I will, lest the Lord take me first. Other men who did the dirt your papa done have screamed at the last moment. He will scream too. Yes, Adeline, he will scream. But that has nothing to do with hoodoo. It's hell beckoning. He's poor and foolish, Jane. He shouldn't have killed my boy. Do you hate me, Jane? I don't hate you, I said. I don't even hate him. But he will pay. Isn't that amazing that Jane doesn't hate him? If somebody did that to your son or somebody that you loved, wouldn't you hate them? Something to think about, something you can journal about. I'm the one paying, she said. I'm the one suffering. You don't know what suffering is, Adeline, I told her. I showed you the marks on my back, she said. I wish I could show you the ones on my heart, I told her. Poor Jane, she said. Clairvaux didn't come to die for 10 more years. Died just before the high water there of 1912. Christine had been gone, had fooled around with every man on the river, black and white, had gotten more buckets of figs, pecans, muscadines from them black boys on the river that you'd care to name. The one day she got on a wagon with a drummer from St. Francisville. The drummer used to sell pots and pans and sharpened scissors and knives. Him and Christine left here one Sunday evening, but poor Adeline was still at the house. Albert Clairvaux wasn't sleeping in the same bed with her now. She told him when Christine ran off with the drummer, he had to go back around the other side. If he didn't, she was going to run off too. He went back round the other side, and she stayed there to look after him. Just the two of them there now. The boys had run off like Christine did. The weekend Albert Clairvaux died, poor Adeline lived in a madhouse. People could hear Clairvaux screaming half a mile. He died on a Sunday. Jules Patin passed by my house and told me Clairvaux was at the point of death. I asked him how he knowed. He said, ready? He had heard him screaming, and when he asked a Cajun what was the matter, the Cajun told him Clairvaux was at the point of death. I had always thought I wanted to hear Clairvaux scream. I had told myself that ever since he killed Ned. But that had happened so long ago, and now I couldn't help but feel sorry for Clairvaux, especially Adeline there. But everybody else heard him screaming. People went by that house all time of day and night just to hear him scream. The doctor came, the doctor went, and still he screamed. Adeline sat on the side of the bed wiping his face with a damp towel. But Clairvaux screamed. Just before he came to die, he pushed Adeline away and got out of bed. Nobody thought he had that kind of strength left. He had his hands up the way you hold a gun. I'll kill him, he said. I'll kill him. I'll kill him. He made 2 steps and fell. He covered his head and screamed for Adeline to stop the horses. She knelt down on the floor beside him. He died there in her arms. So that's the end of book 2. I gave you a couple things that you could journal about. Jane talks about her heart and the scars on her heart. So, you can think back to book 1 and just all the pain and suffering that she's been through. She's had so much loss in her life, and she's stood up for herself many times. And remember, she got beaten by her mistress when she changed her name from a slave name to Jane. She survived the patrollers, and she watched her friends. Even though Big Laura was Ned's mother, those were her friends. She lived on the plantation with them. You know, that would be like our whole class, right? We know each other pretty well. And it would be like us losing some of us, right? So, you know, she has really struggled with that. She's had a lot of loss. I think her greatest loss was Joe Pittman, and I think Ned. You know, I'm just they're two different kinds of love, you know, and so I'm not sure if one of those is a stronger loss that she felt. That could be something that you write about. Um, you also can write from Albert Clairvaut's part. So, in case you don't remember, Cajuns are white people. They are of French descent, and most of them have made it to Louisiana, um, like through Acadia, and that's kind of where the phrase Cajun comes from. And so sometimes like I'm Acadian French, but the French Cajuns that are down in Louisiana, most of them also came from Canada. So they're French. They went from France to Canada, and then most of them went down to Louisiana. And so the ones in Louisiana are Cajun, but they're poor. They're still poor. They're very, very poor, but they're French and they're white. And so I think that for you to process pieces of Adeline, it might be good for you to know that, or not Adeline, her sister, right? I forget what her sister's name was already, but so you can journal about those. I'm going to see you back here for the plantation. So I sort of feel like the first two books are really, really good. And the second two books are really good too. They're really good in terms of our learning, because we're talking about civil rights. There's more issues of civil rights in here. And we start to meet more characters. We'll meet T-Bob and I forget his brother's name, but we'll meet them, and we're gonna find out how Jane gets to the plantation where she is. Okay, so I will see you here in a few more minutes. Go do your journals right now.